Yes.
You don't need to do that. If you want to get on the right, you have some humility. You get on the right side of people. At the moment, the protesters outside the Belfast are locked in like animals. They're locked in like caged animals up there, waiting for the TSG. You want to punch them. They love a punch up the TSG. Until they meet their match, then they don't, as we know. So that's my point. What Heiko's saying is very well and good in theory, but people have fears. We're all frightened by what we don't understand. We're all frightened by what we don't understand. I remember when I was very young in Newbury Park, I saw Sikhs for the first time, and in those days they used to go around selling like fabric. And I remember running back to my nan's bungalow crying because I'd never seen a Sikh before. It fucking frightened the crap out of me, you know. So people are frightened by what they don't understand. But the English are not a religious people, and they see people walking around in pious religious regalia, and they get frightened by it. I beg to move at this point.
Adam, everybody. Heiko Khoo. Oh, not again.
I think we're coming towards.
Yeah, I think we should.
So, I just want to say the following. So, I think you have to look at the precise details rather than escalate the crisis as it happens. Second thing is, I think you have to beware. It is perfectly true that the Tommy Robinson Brigade have been banging on about Muslim rape gangs for 10 years. And it has a certain echo in certain communities, and the consequence of that is that
they've been funded to do that
because there are some people, some international forces, as you pointed out, there are international forces supporting global migration into the European countries. There are forces who are also manipulating genuine fears within the indigenous populations of Europe, of migrants coming in and turning them against them, even though the overwhelming majority of migrants are peaceful and prepared to integrate with the communities they live in. Even though that's the case,
I think they used to be.
Tommy Robinson and co, backed by Israel, are seeking to create, and it's an international campaign, and we'll see this in September when Tommy Robinson's free speech event takes place in London. It will be with global speakers backed by Steve Bannon, Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk and other players who are trying to whip up hatred within the European and North American communities against Muslims on behalf of the one country that has got a global interest in whipping up hatred against Muslims and turning them into unpeople, into what the minister of one of the ministers of Israel said, human cockroaches. They're trying to dehumanize them so that when you turn on the television and you watch children starving to death on television, you are supposed to go, well, they are Muslim, they are different to us, and they are the people who supported October the 7th, undermining the Christian Judeo background of those people in Israel who are like us as opposed to like them, and that therefore what is happening in Gaza, where something officially 60,000 have been killed, actually figures have come out in the last couple of weeks of up to 300,000 people being killed, destroyed under the rubble by Israel, backed by England, backed by America, backed by Europe, to slaughter the people in that country. Do not believe that the internal problems exacerbated in Europe are not integrated with the global problems around the world, in particular around the conflict in Gaza. They are inextricably interconnected. So although I fully understand the fears and the response of communities around Britain. Beware of who your allies are when they mobilise you and say they are the defenders of free speech. I defend the right of Tommy Robinson and his allies to speak. I defend their right to speak at Speaker's Corner, even in the face of all the Muslims at Speaker's Corner. I defend their right to organise protests and not to be charged with terrorism, etc., and not to be beaten up by the police. But in exchange, we expect that those who stand up against Israeli barbarism, those who stand up for the rights of refugees, of the legitimate refugees, those who stand up for the rights of people around the world, like those people who recently have been arrested in London and around the country for supporting a group called Palestine Action, charged with terrorism offences, completely spurious terrorism offences, because they oppose a genocide carried out with the full support of the British, French, German, European and American governments. And therefore, even though it seems abstract for me to talk about world politics when local affairs appear in front of you, in fact, they are automatically and inextricably interconnected.
They are.
I can't see another way around it.
Heiko Khoo, everyone. Heiko Khoo. Heiko Khoo, please.
Heiko, a couple of words in conclusion.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great. So, my late speaker, Heiko, makes some very, very good points. And as I say, I know some Muslims, they're not all pious. We know that. I'll keep very, very short. We know that all Muslims aren't.
Take as long as you want.
There are secular Muslims. There are Muslims. There are Muslims I know that are porn stars. There are Muslims that believe in free speech.
Yes.
There are Muslims I know who believes that Nazis should have the free speech. Free speech should be cross-borders. The psychologist Jordan Peterson said that without free speech, ideas cannot be questioned. And as I said earlier, the greatest freedom a man can have, as Bertrand Russell said, is the freedom to change his or her mind. But may I say, in the wider context of what's going on, we cannot forget the last 4 years, the World Economic Forum. The cynical part of me tells me that Starmer behind the scene, the globalists over there, the World Economic Forum, which in my opinion should be a proscribed organisation, in a way are enjoying every minute of this. And you know why? Because if you read the Great Reset, which I have, and Schwab talks about the dismantleisation of society, all of this makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starmer is dismantling society. And what's the result? As we've seen with the online so-called Harms Act, which has done more damage to freedom of speech. Lots of people used to enjoy watching BitChute. You can't do that now unless you have a VPN. This is a tyrannical government, and as Heiko rightly says, divide and conquer.
Yes.
Divide and conquer. What's happening in Epping? I think there is a quite possible potential of it being orchestrated by the globalists to give them more control.
Exactly what
this is a tried and the Hegelian dialect. Problem, reaction, solution, without being too intellectual.
Adam, I said you can't look at porn anymore. You've got to put your face ID in.
You can do, unless you get a VPN.
That's the
unless you get a VPN. And by the way, may I say, I've never actually watched pornography. I've only studied it. I've only studied it. But my study has lasted. But I don't want to digress. But what is pornography? Pornography is basically human biology. It's human biology. Man is the only animal that's on the planet that isn't. I know this is an exploit. Man is the only animal on the planet that
Anyway,
isn't.
everybody, Adam, thank you. Adam, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Hey, gentlemen, please Corbyn. Please Corbyn.
Let me show you.